Welcome to Innisfil Accelerates, a podcast about the people and technology transforming one Ontario town. Today, we're talking about startups. I've been so impressed with the entrepreneurs we've been able to meet over the last 10 episodes. From Fresh Find to Spot to Agama Work, all of these Ontario-based businesses have taught me a lot about what it takes to succeed. And at the top of that list of successful business traits is humility. The humility to know what you don't know. And the courage to be able to ask for help when you need it. That's why I wanted to invite Joy Adams onto the show today. Joy has been a successful entrepreneur for over 20 years, and now she works with new startups to make their dreams a reality with the South Simcoe Community Startup. Have you had some difficult conversations with folks that come in with ideas that just are not going to work? And what are the reactions that you've received from that? Because sometimes people, when they get their bubble burst, don't react that well, do they?
No. Some people are offended. I have had people just kind of block me from their social media. But that's okay. I stand in my truth and what I know to work, right? I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. And if I had some mistakes that I have made over the years, if I had someone who was there as a mentor, just kind of holding my hands and just being truthful, just being transparent and sharing their experiences with me, a lot of the mistakes I would not have made. So yeah, people get offended, but I rather stand in my truth. And rather than them spending thousands and thousands of dollars and, their time, energy, and sweat to start a business. And then at the end of the day, it ends up failing. So I'd rather stand in my truth.
What are the worst kinds of ideas that you've come across? I mean, you don't have to get into too much specifics that you're going to reveal people's identities, but do you get anything come to mind of like, oh, this is a really bad idea? And just not to make fun of these people, but to also kind of give people a sense of like, what is the category of bad ideas that maybe aren't businesses and maybe are more hobbies or even if that?
I don't think that I've really had any bad ideas. People come to me with any bad ideas. It's just the execution is wrong, the timing is wrong, the business model is wrong. I haven't really had anyone come to me with bad ideas. It's just really just wrong timing. I've seen so many business models right now, and I'm like, one individual I'm working with, I had to tell this individual to go back to the drawing board because these numbers that you presented for your financials, I know they're not accurate because COVID, nobody's walking into stores these days, right? So if someone were to give you pre-COVID data, they will not be accurate.
I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned before about your 25 years of experience and learning through mistakes. I mean, how else does anyone learn really by kind of messing up every conceivable way and making sure that not to do that again? And when you talk with like business experts that give advice to folks that are just starting out on their journey, they'll often say you need a mentor. You need someone that has been through this to kind of give you some guidance. And it's interesting. It's kind of difficult, it seems, for people, maybe especially people that are more inclined to start their own businesses. They're very self-motivated, very independently minded, and it's kind of hard for them to reach out and ask for help, isn't it? Can you talk a little bit about that and why having a mentor? And that's really what South Simcoe Startup is offering, is kind of an organized mentorship. Why that's so important?
It is so, we've gone back to our roots in terms of South Simcoe Community Startup. And I met with the board and I'm like, there's so many things happening and we have to be crystal clear in terms of who we are serving, and who we're serving is a startup community. We're serving the startup community. One of the things that we did just a few months ago was really bring back that aspect of peer-on-peer mentorship, having aspiring entrepreneurs paired to more experienced entrepreneurs. It's a way of just reducing startup mistakes, and especially in this COVID environment where if you pre-COVID, if you on average, we're making 10 mistakes within this present environment that we're in, you just cannot afford to do that. Resources are very low right now. So with a mentor will guide you. you can glean from their experiences. You don't have to make the same mistakes. Learn, glean, have that sense of humility where you're able to learn. And I mean, I have a mentor right now because, I'm trying to scale my business, and I know I cannot do it on my own because I just don't have the skill set. I've not done it before. I can grow, from 0 to 100K. I can do that. And these are the people that I like, the mentees that I have. They're just starting. But for me, from 100 plus, trying to scale my business, it's very difficult. So I need a mentor. So mentorship is so vital. It is so vital, especially right now. There's no need for us to make mistakes over and over. And it's time consuming. It's going to cost us. It's going to cost our families. So there is absolutely there's no need to do that. And I encourage all of our entrepreneurs to reach out to the more experienced business owners within our community and learn from them.
You talked about how important it is to have like market research and a business plan in place, but what we're really talking about here is almost a personality thing as well. That humility was a word that you mentioned, and being able to ask for help. People can really hijack themselves or hinder their ability to succeed by kind of getting kind of myopic, not being able to reach out, getting a little bit arrogant, maybe. Can you talk about how important personality is to becoming a successful entrepreneur? I'm sure you've seen this play out time and time again.
Time and time again. Personality, it's important to have an idea of, like for me, I'm a type A personality, and most of the entrepreneurs that I work with, we're driven, we're type A personalities, and we believe that we can change the world. We can do a lot of things, right? Because, we are high energy, but at the same time, it can be just our downfall also.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you don't allow yourself to be receptive to other people's opinion or people speaking into your lives, right? And that in itself can be a blind spot. That in itself can lead to business failure. So personality is important to recognize, where you are on the spectrum, but at the same time, be humble enough to know that you cannot do it on your own. No one arrived where they need to be on their own, and that is just, what I've learned over the years. Where I am right now, it was built on, the experiences of other experienced entrepreneurs. When I've always said that there are times when I almost went off the edge. Just having, a community of experienced entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, there to pull me back. That is what has helped me to get where I am right now. And this is what I want to instill, that sense, that culture of reaching out for help, that culture of being willing to help. That is a culture that we want to cultivate in South Simcoe Community Startup.
It's a really difficult balance, isn't it? That A-type personality, as you say, very forward-thinking and self-motivated, but not getting in your own way and recognizing when you're making mistakes. Exactly. It's a difficult thing to do. And I wonder if, to some degree, the kind of business mythos that's built around like the Steve Jobs or the Elon Musks, the kind of myths of these self-made men that they're kind of awful to everyone around them and just did whatever the hell they wanted and then became billionaires. It's sort of like the myth that's taught. And I think that does a real disservice for new entrepreneurs that get this in their head, doesn't it?
I know. It makes me feel not really intimidated, but it's like, after 25 years, I could have done a whole lot more.
Yes. But, again, just that focusing on that thing of that kind of arrogance that instills is not a great lesson, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. One of the things too that we also have to recognize, yes, you see these successful entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, and but also we also have to recognize, the other side of entrepreneurship where, that aspect of failure. And I always say, it is part of this entrepreneurial journey that we're in. Even if you were to look at Steve Jobs, for example, you'll realize that before, he became this billionaire, before he became, the CEO of Apple. I'm sure that he had made mistakes along the way.
Mm.
There were some companies that he might have started that were failures. So we generally see the success, the finished product, right? But very rarely do we take a look at the journey along the way and the failures along the way.
Yeah, failure seems to be like a key component of the startup journey. And you hear the time and time again of entrepreneurs that failed not once or twice, but like
Yeah.
dozens of times before they actually got it right. And it's kind of being able to deal with that pain and suffering is really kind of a key component, isn't it? And recognizing that a lot of people fail, and like not having to kind of destroy you in terms of your self-esteem is another really difficult hurdle to kind of get over for people that have maybe gone bankrupt once or twice or had a couple businesses failed. It can be really
Yeah.
difficult to kind of gin yourself up to do it again.
Yeah, but here's the important thing, and that knowing your mindset, the key here, yes, failure is part of the entrepreneurial journey, but the key here is when you fail, just having that tenacity to get up and try again, right? So that is what separates us as entrepreneurs.
And to
That
ask
a
for
lot of
help, right? Like
and ask for help.
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, talking with the kind of the startup community in and around Innisfil, with Innisfil Accelerates and South Simcoe, that there is a bit more of a community aspect to it that maybe you might find in other kinds of entrepreneurial cultures. I think of like the kind of like really cutthroat kind of atmosphere in like a Silicon Valley, for example. It's a kind of a different vibe, isn't it, around
It is
Innisfil?
very, very different. We are a community.
Yeah.
I have been here since for almost 12 years.
Hmm.
And it's just amazing to like that sense of community. And it just trickles all the way down to everything that we do. And that sense of community too is literally what has kept South Simcoe Community Startup, in town. Even though we're going through a pandemic, we are still a community, and we work together. We help each other. So no, we don't have that cutthroat type of environment. We're all here to help each other out, and that is a sense that whether it's South Simcoe Community Startup or even other community groups, that sense of community.
I think it's probably important that we talk a little bit more about the pandemic and what you've seen in terms of its impact on small business and how they've tried to meet that challenge. I guarantee there's been lots of people that have gone out of business over the last 12 months and others that
Yeah.
are struggling. Can you kind of
Yeah.
give me a lay of the land about how the pandemic has changed things over the last 12 months?
It's brutal. It's really, really brutal. Being a startup in a pandemic, it's not a really good position to
No.
be in, because one of the things, even with all the government subsidies and different programs, a lot of our community, or a lot of businesses within our communities, we're not able to access those types of programs, especially within our community. A lot of our small businesses are that personal care industry, and they've been hit really, really hard, because anytime there's a lockdown, it has such a huge impact on that sector of our of our business community.
Mm.
So we have not fared very well, but I'm just hoping that when this is over and done with, I mean, the economy will not be the same, our community will not be the same, but I truly hope that we are able to to rally around each other and be able to encourage each other to just continue to move forward and still continue to ensure that our businesses are a going concern.
Are you worried about the future of small business? I must confess I am a little bit. I understand that
Yeah.
regulators wanted to, it was all square footage, right? So that's why a Walmart could stay open, but a local hardware store could not, because just they had more square footage. But of course, how that plays out on the ground is that big giant multinationals continue to dominate and that little guy goes out of business. And this was a trend that's been going on for decades, but it seems to have accelerated over the last
Yeah.
12 months. Not to be too doom and gloom here, but I mean, what's your sense of that trend?
But Dana, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think something has to be done from a federal level. I remember, I think it was the second lockdown, or our community had moved into a gray zone. And once again, the personal service sector was negatively impacted by that. And at the same time, these big box stores, they remained open. Hairdressers, those small businesses that are hair salons and spas, they were closed. But at the same time, if you walked into a Walmart, the hair salon there in a Walmart store was still open. So how do you justify that? So from a federal level, more has to be done to protect small businesses. And I am concerned. I'm very, very concerned that at the end of this pandemic, that we might not, have a thriving business community.
It goes a lot back to this idea of kind of building community and support for folks and giving them great advice about how to succeed when we come out of this thing. If we come out of this thing, we will come out of this thing, right?
We'll come out, we have to be optimistic, but
Yeah.
at the same time too, we have to be real in terms of what the numbers look like. And I try not to be emotionally moved or driven, but I'm seeing the numbers and it's not looking very good.
No, earlier I wanted to circle back about how to make sure that you succeed and how many folks you see come in through your doors that don't have a business plan, which is kind of shocking to me, but I guess maybe not all that unsurprising at the same time, right? Again, this kind of irrational exuberance, this great idea. Let's just get it going. People just want to get going as quickly as possible. For folks that are just really at the first level here, what is a business plan? Like, what should be in that business plan? What should they be looking at? What are the questions they should be asking? What should be in that document? And why is it so important, do you think?
A business plan it's vital. It's like your Bible.
Yeah.
It's like your roadmap to get you from, point A to point B. And oftentimes I would tell my mentees to go back to the drawing board. I'm actually working on a program, a mentorship program within the community. And I actually had, I'll just put on my glasses.
Of course, take a moment.
Okay, so I actually put, just kind of creating a framework in terms of what we need to see in a business plan, just making it very methodical. Like these are key metrics that need to be in a business plan, because oftentimes, and it's very tedious, it's a lot of tedious work, and left on their own, most entrepreneurs will kind of glaze over it, not really going as deep as they need to, so that they are able to extract the right information so that it can validate their business idea, for example, to see whether or not there's a market for their products or services. So with the market research, with the business plan, and I really emphasize on the market research side of it. Mm-hmm. The other parts in terms of your profile, like that is okay. It's very simple, straightforward. But the market research part of it is where I'm emphasizing. So with the market research, you look at your industry profile, you look at your local market. We spoke earlier about the SWOT analysis and how important that is. If you're targeting a market, you also have to look at that and what the numbers look like. Well, is a market large enough to accommodate your goods and services? So in terms of the marketing is also another side to your, to the business plan. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, what they tend to do when they're starting, in terms of the business name, a lot of it is internal. Like, this is what I think is going to work. But no, you cannot think within just your circle or just yourself, right? It's a market that you're serving. What are their needs?
It is that difference between like anecdotal information and like information that comes from actual studies, right? That's been tested and can hold up over the long term. And you're really emphasizing like you got to test your assumptions. You got to you can have your assumptions. You can hold to them, but you got to be willing to test them and to make sure that they're actually going to hold up.
Right. Exactly. So I focus a lot on the market side of it. I had one mentee that I'm working with, and in terms of the internal operations, like she had it nailed nailed because, it's her passion. She has done all the research. She knew the products and services that she wanted to bring to the marketplace. But at the same time, I had to say, like, hold off for a second there. Who are you serving? Right. It's good that you think that this is going to work. You have just a lot of internal information, but not the actual hard facts of what will possibly work in the marketplace. So the market research part of it, if for most entrepreneurs, I don't believe that most of them would be able to do it on their own. So even if it's just to get enough seed money to hire a digital marketer, because it's just hard data, and they have the tools and they have the capacity to do the research that is needed.
We're just kind of wrapping up here, but I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what's so I guess appealing about being in and around Innisfil for a startup, for people that are considering, especially these days, leaving the city and coming to a smaller community. What, in your view, is the real attraction for folks to do that? What do you think sets it apart, that area specifically, from other parts of the country? Talk to me a little bit more about why you're so positive on Simcoe County.
Well, for one, the lifestyle here. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You can actually live here, raise a family here, and work here because the business community, we are a startup community. So if you're starting a business, the support is here in Innisfil, DMZ, Innisfil. They're there. We have a co-working space that will accommodate startups. So hopefully when this COVID is over and done with, we're able to get into that space to even have a look and see the other services that will be provided through DMZ Innisfil. But it's a lifestyle. Even for me, going back to Toronto, a lot of times I can't wait to get home. Because that sense of just freedom, you're slowing down. The pace is not as rushed as Toronto. It's a slower pace, but at the same time, you are able to live and work here because all the amenities are here and the resources for businesses, they are here in the community. We
talked about the challenges that you see currently, but when you look out in your kind of wildest optimistic viewpoint over the next 5-10 years for the area, what do you see potentially happening there? What's your vision?
Oh my goodness. We're talking about the orbit. That's going to be it's going to have a huge impact on the community. I see tremendous growth in Innisfil. I see a technology hub, and I see it being possible with DMZ and the type of startups that they are attracting. So I see a thriving community. It may not look this way, as you rightfully said, we're in the midst of COVID, but I definitely see 5, even 10 years out, that this will be a thriving tech startup community.
That's great. Joy, anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Well, one of the reasons why I'm literally here on this platform was to really also give, an awareness of our communities, South Simcoe Community Startup, that we are here in the community. We are here to support entrepreneurs, especially when they are starting, because starting to me is the key. And we are here to help, and we are here to decrease that startup failure. We want to change the narrative. So for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs who are have a business idea and you want to validate your business idea, please get in touch with us. You can follow us on our social media pages. We are on Instagram, Twitter. We are also on Facebook. So get in touch with us. It will save a lot of headaches, because when you're starting out, it can be very challenging. It can be very difficult. But being in a community that provides support, to me, that's a game changer.
Thanks so much for making time for me, Joy.
Okay, you're very welcome.
You can learn about how to connect with Joy by clicking the link in the show description for this episode. There you'll find bonus content and access to our exclusive weekly newsletter. Innisfil Accelerates is a program sponsored by the town of Innisfil. You can learn more about how they can help support your great business idea at innisfilaccelerates.ca.